versus civil cases. And then we'll talk about the steps that lead up to a Supreme Court decision. And then we'll learn about how the different branches influence the judicial branch. So the judicial branch is viewed as an important check on the other branches, mainly because here they have judicial review, which we'll talk about in the next slide. And the framers wanted to isolate the judicial branch from like the political world. So instead of being Democratic and Republican, the judges are considered conservative or liberal. And then another important power is judicial review, like I said before. So judicial review was given to the Supreme Court by the case Marbury v. Madison. So it was never actually like mentioned in the Constitution. And it allows the judicial branch to find laws and executive order unconstitutional and strike them down. So if you're here for the executive lesson and also the legislative lesson, I talked a little bit about it. But if if Congress or the president makes like a bad law or executive order, the Supreme Court can decide to strike it down since it violates the Constitution. So there's two different types of courts. There's a federal court and the state courts. And mainly what type of court you go to depends on what law you violated. So if you violate a federal law coming from Congress, you might go to the federal court. And if you violated a state law made by your state's government, you might go to a state court. So it's different levels for each side. So for federal, it starts with a federal district court, then it goes to a circuit court, and then it goes to the US Supreme Court. And the state court starts with a district court too. Then it goes to state appeals court and then state high court. So the levels here, so first with district, and if the person who is defending, if they think that the district court made a mistake or they are wrongly accused, they can take it up to the circuit court where they can decide whether to take that case or not, and whether this district court here followed the rules or not. And in certain cases, there's original jurisdiction. Here, I'll type it in the chat here. Oh no. Okay, anyways. There's original jurisdiction where the course can just be taken straight to sorry, hold on. Okay, so there are certain instances where a case can just be taken straight to the Supreme Court, and that's called original jurisdiction. Now we're gonna look into criminal and civil cases. So a criminal case is when a government law is violated by someone, and a civil case is where there's a disagreement between two civilians. So if you like rob a bank, that'd be a criminal case, and if someone sues you, that'd be a civil dispute. And for a civil dispute, the defendant has to have standing, which means they're directly impacted by whatever the other person did. So if your neighbor cuts down their tree and it falls into another neighbor's yard, you can't sue that neighbor because you're not directly impacted, and that other neighbor needs to sue. So now we'll talk about how sorry about this title here. We'll talk about how a case gets passed in the Supreme Court. So first, you review appeals, and the Supreme Court gets a lot of appeals each year, but they only review like a few cases. So you have to file a writ of certiorari, which is just a formal petition to ask a court for the review. And they can grant certiorari. So 4 of the judges must agree to hear the case, which is a rule of 4. And in total, there's normally 9 judges. So the rule of 4 guarantees that you don't need majority, because if there's like a lot of conservative judges and only like 4 liberal judges, a lot of cases may not be heard if it was like you needed majority. So only 4 is needed. And normally to qualify for certiorari, you have to question a federal law. You have to raise a substantial question about the constitutionality of a federal law or cases where there's a circuit conflict. So, like normal cases are not important enough to get to the Supreme Court. Next, other people can file amicus curiae briefs, which help other people express their opinions on cases. So if you want to do a little research, you can probably search up any case and amicus curiae. And there's a lot of big groups and organizations that express whose side they're on and like their opinions on the case, which might like influence a judge's opinion. Next, we have oral arguments where each side talks for about 30 minutes and they state their arguments, and if at any time if a judge wants to interrupt and ask questions about the case, they can, and the person has to answer. Next, there's a meeting conference. So every Friday, all the judges meet in private to discuss cases. So after the whole week where they're like listening to cases and stuff, they meet and they state their opinion, and then they find the final conclusion. And after that, they write their opinion. So both sides write what their opinion is, and we have the majority opinion, which becomes law, and the concurring opinion, which agrees with the majority but for a different reason. And then the dissenting opinion, which disagrees with the majority. So majority is just everyone agreeing on one opinion on one side, and concurring is where someone like agrees with the majority opinion but not the same reason as the other people have, and then dissenting is the opposite. So I have some vocabulary words here that I didn't include, but there's stare decisis. Oh, hold on. There's stare decisis, which means that the courts should look back on previous cases to make a decision on like current cases. So if there's a new case about abortion, they might look back on Roe v. Wade, which was a really important case concerning abortion and abortion rights and stuff. So Roe v. Wade basically said that a woman has her right to privacy when talking to a doctor about abortion and stuff. So stare decisis just says that when they make a new decision about a different case, they should look back to cases that are similar. And then we also have a litmus test, which is a test of ideological purity, which is used in the process of selecting and confirming judicial nominees. So when the president picks a judicial nominee, they may make them go through a litmus test where they ask several questions to find if they're more conservative or liberal. So I'll share my screen again. Hold on. We have one more slide here. Okay. So now we have congressional control and executive control on the judicial branch. And this is part of checks and balances, which are the three branches looking over each other. So Congress can reject judicial nominees. So if you remember from our legislative branch lesson, Senate has the power to approve or reject judicial nominees made by the president. So if they don't like a nominee the president made, they can just reject them, and they can't influence the judicial branch, that nominee. And they can initiate amendments to overturn jurisdiction. So if the judicial branch makes a decision that Congress is not happy with, they can amend the Constitution to make sure that this decision is not made into law. Since the judicial branch is supposed to protect the wants of the Constitution, the judicial branch has to protect whatever amendment Congress makes. They can also alter jurisdiction or the number of judges, and they can also impeach judges. So the executive branch, they can choose judicial nominees, like I said here, and they can choose whether to use executive power to enforce a decision. So once a decision is made, the president can actually just not do anything about it and just let it sit there. So it actually wouldn't be made into policy right away. So in like the 1900s ish, after Brown v. the Board, the case that made schools integrated again, the president actually did nothing to physically integrate the schools. So many years after the court decided schools had to be integrated, they were still segregated. And here they can use political influence to generate support, and also the opposite to generate hate and stuff. So the president obviously has a lot of political influence, and they can easily sway people to like or dislike the ruling of a case and stuff. So yeah, I think that's all for our lesson today. If anyone has any questions, you can type it in chat right now.